Welcome back to another episode of Iron Talent Engineering. In the last episode, we basically got everything done, painted, and everything sorted, ready to go back on. We've just been waiting for gaskets, pipes, everything else to come from all over the world because England doesn't sell anything for any interesting engine going, so they all have to come quite far afield. So I've been waiting a couple of weeks for, like I say, silicon pipes and gaskets for odds and sods from Toyota. So yeah, basically everything's done. All of this is now completely painted, cleaned and painted, prepped, ready to go back on. We've got to put the O-rings on the new injectors, put all the cold side on first, and then start putting the hot side on. So yeah, this is where the fun begins, guys. This is when you now start assembling everything and everything starts to look great. And not only that, you start making room in your workshop, everything starts going back into one solid lump. It's just so rewarding. So let's get into it, shall we? What we've got here is just basically a view of the new O-rings, insulators and stuff that's going to go on the injector. So you got still the one, they're all still on the injector basically, but you've got like this O-ring what sits on the top here, which I think just acts as a kind of buffer for the clamp. This one what obviously goes on the bottom of the fuel rail and the other bits of the inlet manifold. And two O-rings here, another O-ring there. So these are what you get in a kit from JDM Garage. You got a complete O-ring kit from JDM Garage. A bit pricey to be fair, if I'm honest with you, but so long as it's everything that I need, I don't really care. So yeah, we're just going to swap all them over, and then once they're all done, we're going to start putting them into the fuel rail. All new O-rings and insulators are now in place. Fairly easy job to be fair. I will give you this one tip though. If you're going to roll them on, because obviously they are quite tight to get on over certain things, if you're going to roll the O-rings on, make sure that they're not seated rolled. So just check the seam and make sure that they are in a straight line and not like curl them round like a corkscrew, because if not, they could leak. So now we're going to put them back in the fuel rail. Injectors are now all in the fuel rail. As you probably just saw in the last video, I had to use a mini vise just to push down on the top, just to make sure they seat home, because to drive them in with all the new O-rings, it's quite tight. So you just have to make sure that they are completely seated though. Like they will make an audible kind of like thump, like kind of as they're seated and stuff. You will notice that. So yeah, just be careful when you're putting them in and all that. Make sure that you ain't got nothing seated in there, like any rubbish, any debris, anything like that that you really want to get rid of beforehand. So just take your time easing them back in. So yeah, they're now all in. Now we can put the injector clamps on, add that to the top of the inlet manifold, and go from there. Now we're going to be fitting both of these two together. You've got these three kind of plastic spacers that came off to start with, so they go on the threaded countersunk holes on this part of the inlet manifold. Now these holes here, they're also where these insulator rings go. I think it'd be easier though to put them on the bottom of the fuel rail and then put it all together and clamp it all together. So let's crack on with that, shall we? Right, as you guys can pretty much see, the fuel rail is now back together. The return end is back on, but unfortunately I went to put the actual feed end on and discovered a split in the pipe. So we're going to have to get this pipe taken off because it's like a proper pressurised line. So we're going to have to take this all off, take it to a repair place and get a new piece of new piece of pipe to put on that before we can go any further. We're putting the fuel rail back on. Can see, inlet manifold is pretty much now back together, this one. So obviously like the actual intake side of the inlet manifold, not including the fuel rail bit, what obviously bolts onto this bit. All the hoses that came off it, there were quite a number of them, and I just wanted to replace them with silicone. So done stuff like this. So basically I couldn't buy a kit, you can't buy kits for some reason, so I got this. Is one of the original hoses, and it's just old and perished and rubber, and just want to replace it just in case. So I got like lengths of silicone hose from eBay. So the idea is I've just cut a load of lengths of the straight ones and stuff like that I need for this. Bits like 90 degrees and all that, we'll be trying to replicate it. If not, we'll be trying to see if we can get any new hoses and stuff like that for the actual bends and stuff on there. But once we've got all that back together, the only other thing left to do is then put the loom back on the inlet, and then we can start bolting onto the engine. side's basically all back on. Only thing we've got to do really is put the oil cooler housing back on the block. I was waiting for the O-ring kit. They do these on eBay. Toyota will do them as well, but it takes like a month for everything to get to you. So yeah, get them on eBay. It's just a lot easier. But yeah, once this is back on, we've got to just do the hot side. This is when we're now going to find out if the turbos and that new Y pipe actually fit. So yeah, let's have a look, shall we? See if it ruins my day or not. that's the 1J back together. We've only got a couple more things left to go on it really, and everything will be, well, basically the block will be ready. We had to do some notching on this engine mount here, because obviously the one large modification bit that I put on this, which was that Y pipe, hits the engine mount. So I had to grind this down so I was able to slot underneath it, and everything's fine. So we just done that. We just got to paint it, and then that'll be back on. But she's looking so much better than she did. She was covered in crap, all the gaskets were gone, pipes were leaking. Yeah, so she looks a hell of a lot better now than what she used to. The next stage, what we've got to do is we've got to paint the bell housing. And the reason we've got to paint the bell housing is because, well, the engine's completely black, and if someone is anal enough at a show to look down the transmission tunnel in my car, they're going to see a silver bell housing attached to a black engine, and I don't want that. So I'm going to paint this one black. Gearbox is all done, as seen in the previous video. It's all been rebuilt. So now we just got oh, and the flywheel that I had myself, the light and flywheel, it's all been re-skimmed. I've done that myself at work. We've got ARP bolts for the clutch and the flywheel. We've just got to buy a clutch now. We're not going to go for like a twin plate clutch or anything like that. We're going for a single plate sprung clutch. We're not going to be drifting it anymore. We just want something that will handle around about 400, 450 horsepower, and we'll be happy. So yeah, that'll all be on the next video. So yeah, until that, guys, cheers for watching and all that. It took a little bit longer than expected to put it back together, but that was mainly because kits promised gaskets that didn't actually come with it, and then I had to go to Toyota to get different ones. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and tune into the next video. Don't forget, like, subscribe and share, and yeah, have a good one. Cheers, guys.